Prince Harry was known for his friendships. The life of the party prince who surrounded himself with loyal companions from military service, childhood, and years of royal life. These were not casual acquaintances. These were people who knew Harry before the media scrutiny, before the global fame, before the pressure of being spared to the heir. They defended him through scandals, supported him through his mother's death, stood by him when the world criticised. But according to those former friends who are now breaking their silence, something changed when Meghan entered Harry's life. Not gradually, systematically. Want to know what Harry's closest friends are saying about how they lost him? Sources claim Meghan allegedly identified which friendships threatened her influence over Harry and methodically eliminated them from his life, not through direct confrontation, through subtle tactics that made Harry choose between his friends and his relationship. And Harry, according to insiders, chose Meghan every single time until he stood completely alone. This is not about natural friend group evolution that happens in any relationship. According to those who watched it unfold, this was calculated isolation that left Harry dependent on Meghan for all social connection, cut off from everyone who might question her influence, trapped in a relationship where he has no outside perspective to challenge what he is told. Thank you if you are still watching the video. Hit the like and subscribe button for our appreciation. And now, former friends claim Harry is finally recognizing what was done to him, that the isolation was not protective, it was controlling, and the loneliness he feels in California is not circumstantial. It is the deliberate result of Meghan allegedly destroying every friendship that might have saved him from the choices that have left him estranged from family, disconnected from his past, and utterly dependent on the woman who allegedly orchestrated his complete social isolation. To understand how Meghan allegedly isolated Harry, you need to go back to his friendship circle before she entered his world. Long before Meghan, long before California, Harry maintained deep friendships with people who knew him authentically. But here's what most people don't know. According to sources familiar with Harry's pre-Meghan social life, his friends were not just drinking buddies or party companions. These were people who had been through trauma with him, military brothers who served alongside him, childhood friends who remembered his mother, royal connections who understood the unique pressures of his position. Word from people in Harry's former circle claims these friendships were characterized by honesty that Harry could not find elsewhere, that his friends would tell him uncomfortable truths, would challenge his decisions when they seemed self-destructive, would provide perspective that palace officials and family members could not offer because they represented the institution rather than Harry personally. And according to insiders, Harry valued that honesty deeply. He trusted these friends to see him clearly and care enough to be direct rather than deferential. People familiar with how Harry's social world operated describe a prince who was loyal to people who had proven their loyalty to him, who maintained friendships across decades despite the complications royal status created, who allegedly made time for the people who mattered even when his schedule was impossibly full. And those friends, according to sources, reciprocated that loyalty by being honest when Harry needed guidance rather than simply agreeing with whatever he decided. Then Meghan entered the picture. And according to former friends who witnessed the transformation, everything changed with calculated precision. She watched, she assessed, she identified, she eliminated. The friends who questioned her too directly, the companions who knew too much about Harry's past, the confidants who provided perspective that contradicted Meghan's narratives, and slowly sources claim those friendships began disappearing, not through Harry making conscious decisions to end them, but through Meghan allegedly creating situations where maintaining the friendships became impossible without choosing between her and them. And Harry, according to insiders, was never willing to risk losing Meghan by defending friendships she claimed made her uncomfortable. This is where the story shifts from gradual friend group evolution to systematic elimination that devastated those who cared about Harry. So when did Harry's friends realize they were being deliberately removed from his life? According to sources close to several former friends, the recognition came when they noticed patterns repeating across the group. Want to know what those patterns look like? Insiders claim multiple friends described experiencing the same sequence. First, Meghan would allegedly express discomfort with something the friend said or did, often something minor, a joke that she claimed offended her, a suggestion that she interpreted as criticism, a question about her past that she framed as inappropriate. Then, according to sources, Meghan would reportedly tell Harry that the friend made her feel unwelcome or unsafe, that she could not be around that person without emotional distress. And Harry, people familiar with what happened happen claim would accept Meghan's framing completely without questioning whether her interpretation was reasonable or asking for the friend's perspective. And here's what cut deep for Harry's friends. Sources suggest he would not tell them directly that Meghan had issues with them. He would simply start declining invitations, cancelling plans, becoming unavailable. And when friends reached out to ask what changed, Harry would allegedly give vague excuses about being busy or needing to focus on his relationship. No acknowledgement that he was ending friendships. No explanation of what they had supposedly done wrong, just silence that grew until the friendships died from neglect. Word from former friends claims this was not Harry's natural pattern. Before Meghan, insiders suggest Harry addressed conflicts directly. If he had an issue with someone, he said so. If a friendship was not working, he ended it clearly rather than through ghosting. But according to sources, Meghan allegedly changed how Harry handled relationships. She reportedly convinced him that protecting her emotional well-being required cutting off anyone who made her uncomfortable. And Harry, former friends claim, accepted that framework so completely that he allegedly sacrificed decades-long friendships without even telling the people involved why they were being discarded. As news of systematic isolation spread through Harry's former friend group, reactions revealed how many people recognised the same pattern. How did other friends respond when they learned they were not alone in losing Harry? According to sources familiar with conversations among the former friend group, there was painful recognition that Meghan had allegedly run the same operation on all of them. Multiple friends reportedly compared experiences and discovered Meghan had used nearly identical tactics to eliminate each of them from Harry's life, one by one, methodically, until Harry stood alone. People close to these friends describe a group that tried initially to believe the distance was natural, that Harry was simply busy with new relationship, that friendships would normalize once the early romance intensity faded. But according to insiders, the isolation only intensified. Harry did not come back. The invitations kept being declined. And eventually, sources claim his friends recognized they were not losing Harry to love, they were losing him to control. Meanwhile, some voices in Harry's former circle allegedly tried to reach out directly to address what was happening. According to sources, they sent messages explaining that they missed him, that they were concerned about changes they witnessed, that they wanted to understand what had shifted in their friendships. And Harry, people familiar with these attempts claim, either did not respond or gave responses that allegedly sounded scripted. That echoed Meghan's language about needing to protect his mental health by removing toxic people from his life. Friends who had supported Harry through everything reportedly found themselves labelled as toxic influences that needed to be eliminated. And in California, word from sources suggests Meghan framed Harry's isolation as his own choice, that she allegedly told people Harry had decided to cut off friends who did not support their relationship. But according to former friends, Harry never expressed dissatisfaction with them directly, never gave them chance to address alleged concerns, never allowed conversation that might have preserved friendships if Meghan was misrepresenting their words or intentions. The systematic elimination, sources claim, happened entirely through Meghan's filter, and Harry apparently trusted that filter completely without verifying whether her interpretations matched reality. But here's what most people don't know. What specific tactics did Meghan allegedly use to isolate Harry from each friend? The revelations paint a picture of psychological manipulation that former friends only recognize in hindsight. The first tactic involved creating competitions between friendships and the relationship. According to sources familiar with how Meghan allegedly operated, she would schedule activities with Harry during times when he had standing plans with friends. Then she reportedly would express hurt if Harry chose friends over her, not forbidding him from going, just making him feel guilty for the choice. And according to insiders, Harry began declining friend invitations to avoid making Meghan feel secondary to his social life. The second tactic was more subtle. Multiple sources claim Meghan allegedly misrepresented things friends said to make them seem hostile to her or the relationship. A concerned question about how quickly things were moving became them not wanting Harry to be happy. A joke became a microaggression she could not tolerate. A suggestion that Harry slow down became them being unable to accept that Meghan was not royal born. And according to people who witnessed this pattern, Harry accepted Meghan's interpretations without fact-checking them with the friends involved. The third tactic involved creating situations where friends allegedly could not win. Word from sources suggests Meghan would set standards for behaviour that were impossible to meet. Then, when friends inevitably failed to meet those standards, she reportedly used that as evidence they did not respect her. According to insiders, friends who were too familiar with Harry were told they could not accept Meghan as his equal. Friends who treated Meghan formally were accused of being cold. Friends who asked questions were invasive. Friends who did not ask questions did not care. The framework, sources claim, was allegedly designed so that any friend behaviour could be interpreted as problematic if Meghan wanted that person removed from Harry's life. And the fourth tactic is what former friends claim they recognise most clearly now. Meghan allegedly isolated Harry emotionally before isolating him physically. Sources suggest she convinced Harry that his friends did not understand him the way she did, that they represented his old life that was holding him back from his authentic self. That true love required leaving behind people who were anchors to a past he needed to transcend. According to insiders, Meghan allegedly positioned herself as Harry's only true ally, the only person who really understood him, the only relationship that mattered. And once Harry believed that narrative, sources claim, eliminating the actual friendships became simple because Harry had already emotionally disconnected from people Meghan convinced him were obstacles to his growth. To understand how Meghan learned these isolation techniques, you need to understand influences that allegedly shaped her approach to relationships. So who taught Meghan how to systematically remove people from someone's social circle? The first influence, according to sources, came from observing power dynamics in Hollywood, where control often operates through controlling access. Insiders familiar with entertainment industry patterns claim ambitious people learn early that managing someone's friendships is key to managing their decisions. That if you control who someone talks to, you control what information they receive and what perspectives challenge your influence. People close to Meghan's Hollywood years suggest she allegedly watched how successful operators maintained power by ensuring their partners or clients were dependent on them for all social connection. The second influence was allegedly more personal. Word from sources familiar with Meghan's past relationships suggests she had practiced these isolation techniques before, that previous partners described similar patterns of their friend groups shrinking as Meghan's influence grew. According to insiders, this was not specific to Harry, but a relationship pattern Meghan allegedly refined over years. And with Harry, sources claim she simply deployed more sophisticated version of control tactics she had already perfected. The third enabling factor was Harry's vulnerability. According to people who knew Harry well, his mother's death left him with deep fear of losing people he loved. And Meghan allegedly exploited that vulnerability by positioning herself as the relationship he could not risk losing by maintaining friendships she claimed threatened her emotional safety. Sources suggest Meghan understood Harry's trauma and allegedly weaponized it by making him choose between his fears of loss and his loyalty to friends. And Harry, according to former friends, chose to avoid loss of Meghan by accepting loss of everyone else. What makes Harry's former friends truly dangerous to Meghan now is what they witnessed and remember about who Harry was before isolation. Want to know what these friends know that could expose the full extent of what was done to Harry? According to sources close to the former friend group, they collectively possess detailed knowledge of how Harry changed after Meghan. They watched him become someone they did not recognise. They allegedly witnessed him adopting Meghan's language, her grievances, her interpretations of events they all experienced. And they can trace, according to insiders, the exact progression of how a confident, socially connected prince became an isolated man who allegedly speaks only through his wife's filter. Word from former friends suggests they compare notes regularly about what they remember, the conversations Harry had with each of them before Meghan that showed his true thinking, the concerns he expressed privately about relationship moving too fast, the moments when he seemed aware something was wrong but unable to act on that awareness. According to sources, these friends are not interested in public revenge or tabloid stories. But people close to them claim they are ready to speak if Harry ever needs someone to remind him of who he was before he allegedly became who Meghan needed him to be. The vault of memories exists across a network of people who loved Harry before he was isolated. And those memories, according to insiders, contain evidence that Harry's transformation was not organic growth but systematic erasure of the person he actually was. And now we reach the final truth about what isolation costs. How does a prince survive when he finally recognizes his loneliness was engineered? Harry stands in California, reportedly devastated by recognizing the pattern his former friends describe. According to sources close to the situation, he has begun reaching out tentatively to people he ghosted, testing whether bridges can be rebuilt after years of silence. Word from insiders suggests some friends respond, but with wariness. They allegedly want to help Harry, but fear Meghan will simply isolate him again if they reconnect. That their presence will trigger another round of emotional manipulation where Harry must choose between them and her. Those familiar with Harry's state of mind claim he finally understands what was done to him, that the isolation was not protection but control, that Meghan allegedly removed everyone who might challenge her influence until Harry had no perspective except hers, and now he allegedly lives with the consequences. No friends to call when marriage feels suffocating, no confidants who knew him before Meghan rewrote his identity, no escape from dependence on the woman who allegedly created his isolation. According to former friends willing to speak, they recognise the pattern of abuse where victim is cut off from support systems until abuser becomes their only reality, and they are waiting, hoping Harry recognises not just the isolation but the calculation behind it. Because in the end, true love does not require destroying all other relationships to prove its primacy. And Harry's isolation, according to those who watched it happen, was not about Meghan protecting their relationship. It was allegedly about Meghan ensuring Harry had no one else to turn to when he finally started questioning the choices that cost him everything. The friends remember who he was, they know what he lost, and they stand ready to speak when Harry finally admits he was isolated not by circumstance but by design that left him alone with the architect of his loneliness. Subscribe to Royal Unfiltered for more such royal news daily. Thanks for watching.